Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to It's Rainmaking Time. This is Kim Greenhouse. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Philip Lymbery, the Chief Executive of Compassion in World Farming. He's been at this for 20 years professionally, campaigning for the welfare of animals. He's also a bird watcher and wildlife enthusiast. He's really leading the International Farm Animal Welfare Organization, Compassion in World Farming. The way animals are raised, treated right before they come to slaughter and during the slaughter process is unacceptable for anything that's considered humane and human. The way that they are overcrowded, the sicknesses that they get, the way many of them are fed, and Philip is here to change the whole thing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one of the greatest advocates for animals in the world, Philip Lymbery. Welcome to It's Rainmaking Time.
Kim, thank you so much, and I'm delighted to be with you, and thank you so much for your introduction. I really appreciate it.
It's really true. You had done many years of work for the World Society for the Protection of Animals, and I have to tell you that some of us who are not educated about what WSPA does have skepticism about it. What do they really do for animals? And since you have been working with them for so long, I wonder if you could just talk about your past with them.
Yeah, sure. Well, my past really, certainly in professional animal welfare, started actually with Compassion in World Farming, as you know, in 1990. I was the campaigns director for pretty much the whole of the 1990s at Compassion. I then left Compassion for 5 years, and during that period, I spent just over a couple of years working as the global director of communications for WISPR, for WSPA, and in my view, they do a great job. They work in regions of the world that are difficult to get cut through. They work on the whole range of issues: companion animals, farm animals, disaster relief, and everything in between. And I think they're a great organization. I think they're worthy of support.
I appreciate you saying that, because some people say, oh, they're a political organization. And a lot of the people that are unfamiliar with what they do, some of them say, well, they don't really do what they say they're going to do. And they do this about a lot of organizations when it comes to animals. Why is it, in your view, that so many people have a paradigm about animals that they're not sentient, that they don't feel? Why?
I think it boils down to old habits. Maybe people haven't thought these things through, and people need to, I think, embrace animals as part of the continuum of life that human beings and animals are all part of. It's that thing that I guess. Some cultures have ingrained a feeling that the world, the natural world, is there for humans to use in the way that humankind likes, and I think increasingly that's being challenged, and people are realizing that animals are sentient beings, that they do feel pain and they do suffer, that they do have needs and wants, and that what happens to them matters to them. And it's that last point, actually, what happens to them matters to them, and that is why I got involved all those years back, because it matters to me too.
There are some countries that commit greater abuses and massive cruelty to animals. Now, I'm not here to get into a political thing about which countries and all that, but I will tell you something that affected me that I saw on television. I saw a cooking show where a Chinese man put a live fish in a pan and started to cook it alive. Now, I know we're not talking about fish, but I had such an issue with it, how anybody could do that to anything living. What level of disconnect you have to be at, personally and or culturally, to operate that way?
I totally agree. It's shocking, it's appalling, and it shouldn't go on. And I had the same reaction in the 1980s when I was at school. We had a school talk, and someone came in from an organization I'd never heard of before at that time, an organization called Compassion in World Farming. And I learned how calves were being kept throughout their 6 months of life in veal crates where they couldn't turn around. But the thing which got me, especially as a teenage bird watcher, I was about 16 at that time, the thing which really got me was the way that hens were being kept for the whole of their lives in these tiny, barren cages where they couldn't stretch their wings, where they were, almost as good as living on top of each other, where they couldn't scratch the ground under their feet because they were on bare sloping wire. I
It's
believe as
mean.
many
It's
people.
so mean. It's so
It
mean.
is. And I believe, as many people do, I think that we get one shot at life, and to me, to have your life effectively taken away in that way is just appalling. So that is why I joined the fight against factory farming, and that's why I've joined the battlefront, if you like, to win hearts and minds across the world.
How come it is that factory farming is allowed to continue the way it is? Let's just say, for example, that factory farming people have a disconnect and they do not even consider that the animals are suffering because it's a non-issue. It doesn't matter. They're simply food. Why is it allowed to continue for health reasons when they get acidosis and other diseases, these animals, from the terrible way that they're kept before they're slaughtered?
Well, I think the big thing we're up against is vested interest and the fact that there has been a lot of investment in the factory farm machine. And we have to remember that worldwide, we rear and slaughter 67 billion farm animals now every year. 67 billion. And that 2 out of every 3 of those animals are now factory farmed. They're now kept indoors permanently and grain fed. So we're up against a huge vested interest. And we're up against a machine, if you like, that is looking to self-perpetuate. So we're often not dealing with simple strand argumentation like, if you keep animals in this way, they're going to suffer and therefore it shouldn't happen. There's a whole lot more behind it, and that is why we need everyone to join that battle that I mentioned for hearts and minds, and for a better life for farm animals.
I have to tell you something. Several weeks ago, there was a massive slaughter of dolphins in Japan. And I don't know what led me, but I put this communication on a blog and I said, there is no way in today's society that any animal has to suffer in order to die for food. They don't have to be harpooned. They don't have to be cut up alive. No animals have to or should ever suffer in order to be food. That paradigm is critical that people understand that, and that to allow animals to suffer mercilessly to become food is not acceptable. It's not humane, and any humans that think that this is acceptable are totally disconnected. I will tell you another thing. When Sarah Palin was running for vice president, it was during Thanksgiving a few years ago. Right behind her, there was a machine that chops up animals alive. They took a turkey, they shoved it in the machine, and you could hear it cutting it up alive. That is not okay. How anybody thinks that's funny, I don't get it. This is part of agribusiness, isn't it?
It is, and unfortunately, and I agree with you, it shouldn't be. It needn't be. If we can put people up into space, then surely we can make sure that if we are going to use animals for food, that they are treated decently and that they don't suffer. Sadly, all too often that just does not happen, and I think it comes down to the fact that 2 out of 3 farm animals in the whole wide world are now seen as commodities, as things, as parts in a machine, that they're now even further removed from the concept of sentience than they might once have been. You have to remember that even in the European Union, which in the nation of animal lovers that the